right. In this episode, we're going to talk about getting you to six figures in real estate. So when you finish this episode, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to make your first 100,000. Stay tuned. Okay, episode 22. Here we go. We're going to talk about 6 steps to six figures. But before we go there, RL, let's talk market update. What happened last week? Rates down. I think you locked some people at under 6 this past week, right?
That's right, I did. There's still a little bit of banking turmoil out there.
Yeah.
And I think as long as that's hanging around, the rates are going to continue to be quite volatile, but maybe possibly going down. So we saw, again, rates tick down, but that initial news that came out from the Fed last week was really that they were going to raise the interest rates another 25 basis points. So, people thought, well, what's that going to do? And I think, again, with that banking turmoil out there, we saw what it did, which was it still went down even despite the 25 basis point hike. So
yeah, I think that's a thing that a lot of agents, and including me, don't quite get. It's like, okay, well, they announced that it's going to go up, but the mortgage rates go down. And then we have a lot of talk, and they say, well, mortgage rates aren't necessarily affected by the Fed, so they're not setting mortgage rates. But we do see there is some effect, and there's some back and forth there, and I don't think that everybody quite understands the relationship. And we don't have to get super technical, but I don't know if you could give us like a brief breakdown of how that works.
I mean, a lot of it's baked in, right? So a lot of what the Fed will or won't do is baked into the current rate. So people make assumptions about what the Fed will do at the next meeting, and so they base the current rate on that. Sometimes they're wrong. So a couple weeks ago, everyone bet that the Fed was going to way slow down on interest rate hikes because of the data coming out, and they didn't. So rates went up. This time, the banks are having some issues, or at least a couple banks have had issues, and people are like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean we're headed towards kind of a much larger recession? So rates went down. All of this is, in my opinion, tied very closely to inflation. And if we get that under control, rates will continue to come back down. If we continue to have bank turmoil, rates will come back down despite what the Fed does. But, in some cases, you get to the point where they've raised it as high as it needs to go to combat whatever issues are out there in the financial markets. And then rates do come down on their own because that's what's supposed to happen.
So if again, the way that I think about it is just generally speaking, and I'm going to way oversimplify this, but where you have this pendulum and it's swinging, we went, super low interest rates, like ridiculous
for a long time.
For a long time. We swung the pendulum back the other way, which is higher than they've been in several years, like when we were seeing 7 and 8, right? And then we're just kind of down, we're kind of settling back to this little back and forth here with just little things here or there. I think probably once things get under 5, that will fire back up the just general real estate and give people some certainty. Because I think a lot of this is just driven by uncertainty. People just don't know what's going on. And should I buy a house right now? And all of that stuff. But in the meantime, we're still seeing multiple offers on entry price points. We're still seeing when something goes on the market, it's selling. So, maybe it's taking a little bit longer. We hit a little funk for a little bit, but houses still sell.
To me, our market is much more balanced right now, but it still favors the seller. And the last thing that they have to hold on to, if you don't have to sell and you're a seller right now, if you don't have to, like you're moving locally, you're not moving out of state for a job or something, the last thing you have in your back pocket is you're sitting on a 2.5 or 3% interest rate, and you don't want to give that up. So you're not in a big rush. But if those rates start to come closer to that 3% or 3.5% or whatever they have, as rates start to come closer to that, that's no longer an issue, and I think you'll see a very balanced market.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we get into the content, would you guys do us a huge favor? So we put this out every week. We hope that it's been helpful for you. If you could like it, subscribe, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. If you could subscribe, and give us a rating, we would really, really appreciate it. So that way more people can hear about this. Okay, 6 steps to six figures. Yeah, when I was, excuse me, just one second. When I was first getting started in real estate, or had just gone to full time, I was trying to figure out, basically, I think the thing that I hear the most, right, and the thing that I wanted for myself was like, I want to cross over to that 6 figures a year, right? That was kind of that was the target, and so I had a mentor at the time that was helping me do this. And so I wanted to just kind of break that down for everyone, for you guys who are on that path. As a coach, people mostly come into real estate thinking, hey, how do I make 6 figures in this business? So I want to break down in just some really simple steps or really simple things that you need to do and mindset that you need to embrace to get there. And before we even get to the steps, I want to say it's extremely possible to do this. Really, I don't care what market you're in. Let's just say if you're in, the Nashville market, that's probably 1 sale a month. If you're in other markets, it might be 2 sales a month, but we're talking about somewhere between 1 and 2 transactions a month. You need to make $8,000 a month for 12 months in a row. Now, the challenge, I think, is going to be the little bit of the lead up, because it's going to take 3 to 6 months for that start to fall. And you're going to have 1 month with 5 transactions and 1 month with 2. But once everything settles, you'll have finished in a 12-month period with somewhere between 12 and 24 sales. So you just have to believe that it's possible. And I will just tell you, it's not that complicated. You don't have to kill yourself as a salesperson to generate 6 figures in real estate. I think it's very attainable with just a little bit of discipline and a plan.
Yeah. I was going to say, you put consistency in the mix. To me, that's the number one thing you need to hit 6 figures is consistency.
That's right.
Stay consistent, stay disciplined. You will hit 6 figures. There's a lot of agents that will see maybe a little small windfall of transactions and then take a break.
Yeah.
We see that a lot.
One other thing is just you're going to have bad days, and that's okay. You're going to have days where you're going to feel burnt out. You're going to have days where you're tired. You didn't get enough sleep. Your kids are sick. You just went through that. You had sick kids. It's like you're going to have bad days. The game is, though, don't turn a bad day into a bad week.
Or a bad month.
Or a bad month. Yeah, just so one of the things that my mentor told me is like, just do something that moves your business forward every day, and that energy will come back to you. You won't even know where, but it's going to come back to you. Okay, so step number 1, lead generation with transactional lead sources. Okay, we've talked about this before, but I won't go into the bigger. If you can go back and listen to some episodes. I don't remember what episode. Some of our first episodes just talking about.
I can link them in the notes.
Yeah, lead generation. But transactional lead sources are people that have to buy or sell in the next 6 months. So what that looks like is for sell by owners, open houses, and or people in your network that need to buy or sell in 6 months. Now, the people in your network are going to be harder to locate, find, and they a lot of times are going to be working with other real estate agents, and or they may not even know that you are a real estate agent. So I'm not saying you don't have a plan for your sphere of influence, but most of the time, I want most of that lead generation time spent with people that you don't know, that only know you as a real estate agent. So that's for sell by owners, because they typically have a reason that they're selling their house. And putting yourself in open houses, which open houses are, a store for you as a real estate agent to show off your expertise, to show off your knowledge of the neighborhood, and to give you interactions with neighbors. So those transactional lead sources are incredibly important to focus on. And the other thing is, when you get here's why. For sell by owners specifically, give you listings, and listings equal leverage. You're leveraging time, you're leveraging energy, because when you put that for sell by owner on the market, right, then when they list with you, which by the way, just from a numbers perspective, 80, even still with everything out there, with Zillow, with all of the online stuff, 88% of for sell by owners will list with someone. They need the exposure. They need the expertise. They need somebody to tell them that they're overpriced. There's just a myriad of reasons. There are buyers that don't want to work with a for sale by owner. There are realtors that don't want to work with a for sale by owner. They're gonna list, okay? But guess what? They, in a lot of cases, are going to need to buy something, right? So they may be listing their house to sell, listing their house, selling it, and moving to another place in the city. So guess what? Now that one transaction turns into two.
Yep.
So that's leverage. Or when you've got that listing, you've got exposure to neighbors. You've got your name and number as a contact point online. You have your name and number as a contact point for a sign in the yard. And it gives you the ability to do the open house for that for sale by owner. So that's what I'm talking. So I've got a realtor right now. She sold a house. Okay. And he's buying another one. Right. So she went on it was a for sale by owner that converted. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. 2 transactions, which are going to equal tens of thousands of dollars of income for that month, because those are going to be back-to-back closings.
Yep.
So they can be really, really good. So make sure that you're focusing on the things that are high leverage, and that for people that, again, the big thing with transactional lead sources is they have, if we're talking about time and intention, right? I always say it's like, we need to find out when somebody's going to move and why somebody's going to move. And when they're timing and intention, they've got a reason to move and they know that they have to be somewhere by a certain day. That's what's going to form that transactional lead source versus somebody who's just thinking about it or who's just shopping or whatever. So you don't want to waste your time with people who are they don't have a reason and they don't have a timeline.
Yeah. And for sale by owners and open houses are the best sources of lead generation for transactional homes. But I will say for your spheres, the purpose of that, your sphere has to know that you're an agent. You can't be this secret agent that nobody knows. I mean, work it into every conversation. I'm not asking you to be salesy to your friends.
Yeah.
But everybody talks about their job. Everybody gives an update when you're at coffee with your buddies or with your girlfriends. They give an update on how things are going with work. Make sure you use that opportunity to talk about your business and your work. I'm not say, hey, anytime you guys want to list with me. Not that, but just work real estate into the conversation. Like, can you believe how crazy the market is? Stuff like that. So that people understand that you know what you're talking about and you are a source should they ever hit the point where they do need to list.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's step number 1. Step number 2, expert level time management. Your whole week, every single day of your week needs to be time blocked. Lead generation, 1 hour to 2 hours of lead generation needs to be on your calendar every day. Your afternoons will get booked for appointments and or showings. So appointments for those for sale by owners that you set up, right? And showings with clients that need to go look at houses. So basically it's going to be somewhere between 9 and 10 and 9 and 11 a.m. That's going to be your lead generation. You could even bump that up to 8 to 10. Okay. And then your afternoon, you need some middle of the day time to do some cleanup, email answering, text answering, just kind of putting out fires, and then that afternoon for those appointments. But you need to get really, really, really good at managing time. Otherwise, you're going to be in a constant state of overwhelm and reaction if you don't have a place to put everything. So, I'm even, when I'm coaching agents, I tell them to leave on their voicemail. I'll be answering calls between 11 and 12, whatever it is, or 12 and 1. Okay, so leave a message or send me a text. So I tell them to put all that in their voicemail to set the expectation for their clients when you're going to return calls. So you need to, when you're getting started as an agent, you just want to jump on everything really fast. You're like, I've got somebody that wants to, go look at houses. Let's do that right now. Or I've got a client that has a question. I need to answer them right now because I'm going to keep them happy. And we a lot of agents are people pleasers, and so they don't like to make anybody wait. But it will sabotage your plan, sabotage your business.
Yeah, I've got friends that are agents in other states, and every time we hop on the phone just to catch up, it's like, man, this day got away from me. I can't understand how I ended up doing this, and this. That just screams no time management. Like they're not blocking anything.
Right.
And not only is time management important for getting to six figures, but at some point you're going to have to set some boundaries.
Yeah.
Like if you don't, that's when agents get burnt out. I'm working every Saturday and Sunday, running people around all over the place. They end up not even being qualified. All of that screams like no plan,
Yep.
no course of action, no anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's time to spend time. Do you have any good books that you recommend for just becoming an expert at time? There's one that was my sort of foundational book, which was called Getting Things Done.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Free to Focus is another one for me. That's a Michael Hyatt book.
Yeah, you shouldn't have put me on the spot.
Sorry,
I'll put some in the notes. I'll put some in the notes
about it, but yeah, I think the Getting Things Done was kind of the I don't want to say original.
That would have been my on the list for sure.
But foundational. He was a physician. So if you think about like doctors, they're really good about appointments and scheduling and all that stuff, and they record everything. They do their voice recording so that they can keep accurate records. So.
Except for the ones that aren't waiting in the waiting room for 45 minutes past your appointment.
I know. Okay. So yes, start to see yourself as an expert in time management. The third, this goes back to your point about not being a secret agent. A lot of your friends and family are going to be interacting on social media. So you need to be showing what you're doing on social media. So one of the examples is if you go to a for sale by owner appointment, you ask the for sale by owner if you can highlight their or basically show their house to your Facebook community or Instagram community or whatever. Here's what that does. It shows people that that's what you do. Shows your friends and family that you are a real estate agent. And your friends and family that are seeing that, they don't know that that's not your listing. Right? Now, you're not being misleading. You're just saying, hey, look at this house. It's for sale. And if they use you, most times for sale by owners are going to pay a percentage to you as a real estate agent. So, but people don't go through the process of going, oh, RL's looking at that house. Is that really his listing?
Nobody does that.
Nobody does that. They're just like, I forgot. He's selling houses now. Right. So you're just reminding people that that's what you do. And the more, what you don't want to do with social media is look at me social media, which by the way, that's another one that, another podcast you want to go back and listen to with Kyle Draper. Not look at me social media, but more storytelling social media and serving your community social media.
The look at me social media just gets scrolled past. I promise you.
What's your least favorite, social media, look at me post?
If you look at somebody's feed and all it is like sold, that's boring to me.
It is super boring. Yeah. You're not telling stories. You're not, it's not a human thing. It's more like, you need to, you think about it, like the reason that, like in football, if you're watching college football game day, or if you're watching a big game that's coming up, they usually have that human story about this person that overcame adversity to play in that game, right? So they tell that story. So they don't just, the reason that they do that, because it gives you a deep connection.
It's more than a game. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would rather look at somebody's feed and say, wow, if I ever need to know something about Franklin, I'm going to go to this person. It's like where to go eat, fun things to do, where to take your kids, maybe I sold a house, but just all that sprinkled in
right
on a page, and stuff with how they're hanging out with their kids and their family, all of it. You want to understand that, hey, this person's active in their community, they're selling real estate, and they're, family oriented or whatever.
Right. But with all that social media, don't get your hopes up. Okay. That is more marketing than it is sales. And so, I'm not saying you won't get transactions. You will get, let's say, you do social media 3 times a week and you get 2 additional transactions just from friends or family members that saw you. Okay. That's worth it. Right. Because that's going to be a month worth of income or more. based on the size of the transaction. So the reason that you're doing that social media is you're just keeping it in front of people, and that's going to build over time. So you're really doing that for the coming months and years.
It's more of a reminder to your sphere than anything.
Right.
And, to your point earlier, like you might get a transaction or two from this, but your real transactions come from that daily lead generation activity that we talked about in step 1.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so that was step number 3. Step number 4, delegate your paperwork. The reason I'm telling you this, you need to have a transaction coordinator. I would say start with one. If you're a brand new agent, you need one. We use a company called Revolve Transaction Coordination. And the reason this is that's transaction management will be the biggest time suck, and you can pay somebody a fraction of your time. So if you think about it, okay, this is what I do. Okay, I say, all right, so I'm going to pull out my calculator here. Okay, I'm going to say $100,000. We're going to make $100,000 this year, and you have about 2,000 working hours per year. Okay, so that equals $50 an hour. Okay, so every hour you need to be doing $50 an hour work. Transaction coordination is maybe like $20 an hour work at the most.
Yeah.
So it's better to spend your time doing lead generation activities than plan air traffic control for your transaction, responding. Because every time you put yourself, and this is what people don't understand, because there's so many realtors that'd be like, oh, I like doing my paperwork. They think that they're doing some sort of better service for their client when they're not, right? Or they feel like, well, that's what my client's paying me to do is this transaction, I was like, your clients aren't paying you to do paperwork. They're paying you to be an expert in real estate negotiation and managing the transaction from a high level and helping them like locate properties. So the paperwork part of it is not what they're paying you to do.
No. And for every hour you spend chasing down signatures or writing up offers or doing amendments, that's time you're not spending doing lead generation, which is where your future business comes from.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and the problem is when you put yourself in that seat, it's not just like, oh, all I've got to do is just send like a couple of emails. I got to send an email to, to the lender, and I got to send an email to the title company. I was like, no, you become the point of contact for everything. So people are going to be sending you stuff, pinging you constantly, asking you questions. And so it'll just steal your time, steal your energy. It'll make you lose focus. So you need to be able to delegate that stuff and realize that it's going to take some time. If you're one of those agents that's been doing your paperwork, it's going to take some time for you to let go, and understand and work with that person. And so they understand how you want things done. So you make sure that you are delegating appropriately so that you're not getting frustrated and there's not uncommunicated expectation.
Yeah. And if you have a certain way you like to write up offers or do this or do that, go ahead and fill out a template for yourself. Like these are all the pieces of information that I put in an offer, and then create a template for yourself. And then each time you're going to write an offer, just fill out the template, send it to the transaction coordinator, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Step number 5. This is actually multifaceted. So it's that. There's some self-care here. Okay. The first thing that you want to do is you need to be a reader, whether you do this on Audible. Okay. Because some people are audio learners, and some people are actually like, they need to read. They like to read books. You need to be reading at least 10 pages a day of some sort of either personal development or real estate, business, something that's going to improve the quality of your life and also reshape your mindset. This is so incredibly important. I don't want to understate this. You need to be putting information in. There's so much stuff out there, whether it's, there's just garbage, whether it's Instagram, whether it's social media, whether TV, movies, all that stuff. Those aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves, but you need to be filling your head with things that are going to move you forward, give you new ideas, give you strategies to become more efficient, give you a new way to see something, give you a new way to communicate something to someone, right? Maybe you read Chris Voss's book on negotiation. Maybe you read Gary Keller's book on becoming a millionaire real estate agent. These books that we were talking about, you need to be a reader. And guess what? You don't actually have to buy books. You can just get them on Audible or whatever.
Yeah. My one plug for audiobooks would be that these are not books that you read to take a bunch of notes in and make sure you fully understand each and every concept in the book. You're largely trying to fill your head with a lot of different concepts that you use to shape your own opinion on the matter. So if it's time management, read a couple of different time management books and use those different philosophies to kind of form the own way you like to do it. Because I don't like using these types of books to copy someone's exact methodology, because that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I had a mentor that it was a game changer for me, because he said, I don't read for retention. And I go, that's weird, because I always felt like, I'm like, well, I got to follow these steps in the book. And, you've got all these books out there that are like, fill out stuff at the end of this chapter and make sure you do this. And it's like, I'm not doing that anymore. I think there are some books that you can do that with. I'm not sort of like I don't want to be a jerk to these authors that are writing those things, but the reality of it is I'm reading to keep good things going in my brain and to grab one or two ideas from the whole book.
Yeah.
That's it, that are going to sort of shape how I do things.
I've always been a reader, and I had a boss one time early on in my technology career that was also a reader, but he followed every book to the T, and you could always tell what book he was reading, because the way he led was shaped by that book so much that for the next 6 months you'd be like, he's reading this now.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to understand what this person was looking for, because they were shaping it so closely to the book. And these books are largely written for experiences that they had in their life or this or that. And no situation is exactly the same. So you can't assume that book will holistically apply to someone else's life that's in a completely different situation, in a different culture, in a different company.
Right.
So don't read for retention, understand the concepts, and then apply them appropriately to your own situation, whether that be part of the concept, some of the concepts, or none of the concepts. I've read a lot of books where the only thing I learned is that I don't want to do it like that.
Yeah.
But not to say I'm arrogant, but just that book didn't work for me. And I found another book that I took a lot from and shaped the whole way I do things in the future. Yeah.
I think just as we have this misunderstanding of, just because something's written down doesn't make it right. It's like, that's a human that wrote that book, and they have their own ideas and their own philosophy, and you don't have to align with it.
Or even if it's not necessarily wrong, it's just not for you. It just doesn't work for your situation.
Right. Okay. And the last one is, you really need to exercise 3 to 4 times a week. And because, and by the way, you don't have to go like become a bodybuilder, but even just a walk, a 20 to 30 minute walk or a 45-minute walk every single day. There's a couple of reasons. One of them is your body needs exercise. You need to be doing things that are going to like get your blood pumping. It's going to create blood flow to your brain. It's going to improve your mood and give you energy when you exercise. So you need to do it for that reason. But the other thing is that time during the exercise, you can use to think. And one of the things is that I'll do, because I like to take longer walks, like 45-minute walks. It's less about the exercise for me and more about the time to just think. Because you need, like in our world as it is, we have shunned silence. We don't like to have any moment that is quiet. And that really works against you, because you're not giving your brain white space and boredom to be able to think and solve problems and all of that stuff. And so what I'll do is I'll put my headphones in on my walk, and I won't even turn them on.
Yeah, just for the noise cancellation.
Yeah, just for whether it's noise cancellation or maybe I don't want people to talk to me if I see
yeah,
neighbors,
yeah.
because I got neighbors all the time, and so I don't really want to stop and talk. And so that sounds rude, but yeah, I just want to be focused, or I want that quiet, so that I can give my brain time to think, time to process, time to problem solve. So that exercise, yeah, is multifaceted. One is just for your energy level, for your overall health. It's going to put you in a better mood. It's going to release endorphins. It's going to give you energy, and give you confidence. But the other thing is just, I would encourage, have some of that time where you're exercising just to be quiet.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of this one. I know some people are probably listening saying, I didn't come here to get exercise tips. But what this will do is this not only helps you to a 6-figure year, but it sets up the following year, because I can tell you this will help clear your head. This will help keep you sharp, keep you focused. And what it will also help with is burnout. And if you're go, never stop, never take any time for yourself, whether it's the self-care we talked about in the previous step or this step, you will get burnt out. And what we're trying to set up is not just a 6-figure year, but a repeatable 6-figure year where in maybe the next year you're moving into that next digit. So this piece is really important for longevity of your career.
I'm glad you said that, because I've had, as I've coached real estate agents, that's a very common occurrence, is that an agent will reach that pinnacle of making 6 figures, and then they take their foot off the gas. So they'll push. They'll get into overwhelm, or they'll get burnout or whatever, and then they take their foot on the gas, and their income will tank in year 2 after they've done that great 6-figure year.
Happens a lot.
So it's really about just setting up the habits for consistency. All of this stuff really that we're talking about is just setting up correct habits for long-term success. And so it's not, so it is repeatable, and you get off that roller coaster, that entrepreneur roller coaster, where it's like, hey, things are going good, take my foot off the gas, and then I have no transactions coming in, because you don't want to be in that bottom.
Yeah. And it happens on a small scale too, right? You have agents, they get like a $2 million transaction, they get a $50,000 check or whatever it is. And they're like, well, I don't have to work for 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. Fill that pipeline, because there's going to be a period of time like we're in now where transactions don't come as easy, and, pad the bank account a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
I think we nailed it.
Awesome. Nailed it. All right. So we got, just a recap. So your 6 steps to 6 figures. Number 1, lead generation with transactional lead sources. Number 2, become an expert at time management. Number 3, be consistent with social media, but don't get your hopes up on, tons of transactions coming from it. It's marketing, right? Number 4, delegate your paperwork. Okay. Number 5, read 10 pages a day of business or personal development. And number 6, exercise 3 to 4 times per week. All right. Again, guys, if you could do me a favor, like this, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.